It was born ready.
In part one of this brief series, I started explaining the millennial reign, but in order to get there, I had to deal with the second Exodus first. This is a major piece of Bible prophecy that must take place before YaHUsHa is restored as a nation again and put back in our land. If you remember from part one, I explained that YaHUsHa rebelled and sinned against Yahuwah, and two, because of their sins, Yahuwah punished and scattered YaHUsHa to the four corners of the earth. Then three, in the last days, Yahuwah will gather his flock of YaHUsHa where he scattered them and bring them to the wilderness where he will deal with them face to face as he did in the first Exodus. And you see, that's the main understanding that needs to be had. But after YaHUsHa is gathered in the wilderness, there's a lot more that will happen before YaHUsHa's return. So we need to read about it. So we will continue with this discussion about the millennial kingdom. Let's keep going. Okay, so where we at in Bible prophecy? As I was going over what 1 Thessalonians chapter 4 was really speaking about, I praise Yah for the number of people that truly understood that our promises are to inherit this earth and reign with our Messiah. And there were far less people than before that were tied to that pre-tribulation rapture nonsense. From that discussion, I recognized that there were still some areas of confusion that was still left to be discussed. I appreciate the comment sections of my videos because as I engage with many people, I'm able to understand their thoughts and where the struggles are. I personally believe that an online ministry like this can be more challenging than any other church ministry because pastors, they don't have to deal with things like this. They don't have people judging their sermons by the title before they even said a word. They don't have people stopping them in the middle of the sermon to interject their points. They actually don't even really have to deal with disagreements at all. I mean, how many pastors deliver a sermon and then deal with those who disagree every time they bring something out? I've never seen that in the ministry. But when you engage in ministry like this, people from everywhere like to spew their thoughts, and it can be challenging at times. And that's why I've seen in a lot of the other Christian channels, they don't even engage in their comment section. But with me, I do engage in the comment section, and it can be very helpful engaging in comments because it provides growth for us all. This ministry has grown in understanding over the years from engaging in the comment section. And where there were challenges, I had to go back and review and study and move as Yah has guided me. And I'm very thankful for all of it because it has allowed me to really grow in knowledge of Yah and what he has truly declared in his word. As I have repeatedly said, the challenge for most people is the lack of study in the Old Testament. People have end times views without ever reading the Old Testament, and that is the problem with end times dispensational doctrine. There is a complete rejection of the Old Testament prophets and what Yahuwah has declared. And what most people don't recognize is that it's in the Old Testament where all clarity has been given. Most Christians are like this pastor when it comes to the scriptures.
Here's the problem, Rabbi. They're reading Joel, Zephaniah, Zechariah, Habakkuk. They're reading prophets that by and large in the Christian church today, those books don't even exist, right? We pastors, we read Malachi to tell people to pay their tithes. Other than that, we don't have any use for Malachi, right? And this is what's going on. So they're reading these scriptures. First of all, he's reading something I didn't even know was in my Bible, right? Secondly, now he's misinterpreting it, but he already has his foot in the door because he showed me where it says, and he's showing me things like Egypt and Ethiopia. Isaiah chapter 11, verse 12, he said that from the four corners of the earth, and he's naming these African and Middle Eastern lands. It's right there in the scriptures, right? I'm going, wow, I'd never even seen this before, right? So now I'm bringing this back to a pastor who may or may not know these things. If he can't give me a legit answer, that's another reason why I'm going over to here to this thing, right?
Mm-hmm. So you see, he's just saying what most pastors really believe, but they wouldn't be so bold to actually say so. You see, when they preach, they don't have a use for the Old Testament in those books in the Old Testament. And so be clear, that's why a majority of Christians have no idea what they are really to expect in regards to the last days. Our goal as believers should be to be heirs of the promise of Abraham. And the promise of Abraham is not to go to heaven, but to dwell in the land given to Abraham and live in peace under the reign of Yah. Because this teaching is pretty much non-existent in the mainstream church, I want to make sure that I provide clarity. Because of what is happening in this world, everyone is talking about the end times. Many Christian content creators are making a lot of content that speaks about the evil agendas in regards to the Bible prophecy. And unfortunately, they are steering people into traps because they themselves are caught in the strong delusion. But away from that fact, let's just focus on what the majority are speaking about. Everyone, for the most part, when talking about the end times, they deal with the plagues of Revelation and the reign of the Antichrist. But most don't truly understand what really is to take place during this period. They focus on the bad, but most don't really understand the good. And because of this, I do believe that it's important to really sum up what it is that we're all waiting for and striving to endure to the end for. The reason people are looking for a pre-tribulation rapture is because they haven't been truly taught about our promises. And it's because, as that pastor clearly says, they have no use for the books from the Old Testament prophets. I want to make sure that there is a teaching that clearly goes over this. So what I will do is do my best to summarize the promises that we are waiting for when our Messiah comes back and reigns as king. I'm going to do a thorough study of the end times that leads to the millennial kingdom and what happens during the millennial reign and then after. I hope this really solidifies all that has been discussed and it brings clarity. Now, I don't have all the answers, but YaHUsHa has given us enough detail where we can understand what it is that we should be waiting for with real biblical expectations. So we're going to bring it all out. We're going to discuss the millennial kingdom. Let's begin.
This is my team, and we get everything done with Monday.com. Sarah is a senior project manager, and she has never missed a deadline. She uses Monday.com, so every project she leads goes from A to Z.
Okay, so like I said, I'm going to be thorough and go through the scriptures as best that I can. I have tried to illustrate some of this, but it's really hard to do so in the programs that I use, and I'm against using AI. So much of this will be just the scriptures, and I will provide explanations when I can. I've attached a PDF copy of all the scriptures that I've used so you can print out and follow along on your own and study them on your own time. Please know that this will not be completely comprehensive. I will not be able to cover all scriptures that are written about this topic, but I will do my best to cover what I feel is important to focus on. Hope this really blesses you. We will start at what we should all be waiting for. You see, the Christian church has been given a false expectation. The Christian church is trying to go to heaven, and among many other reasons, that's a big reason why I'm against Christianity. The doctrines of Christianity have the followers totally aligned to unbiblical goals, and this is why many will hear that Messiah never knew them. The goals Christians are waiting for have nothing to do with what our Father has actually declared, and that is why so many people will not be ready. We should not be waiting to leave here and go to heaven. We should be waiting for the second Exodus. So this is where we must start if you're going to understand the future prophecy. Now, to start this, we just can't start at the second Exodus. If you're going to understand this, you must understand what our Father did to Yasharel and his anger with them. Then you will understand what he's going to do later in these times that we're waiting for. So let me cover what he did. We'll start here. For YaHUsHa will strike Israel as a reed is shaken in the water. He will uproot Israel from this good land which he gave to their fathers, and will scatter them beyond the river, because they have made their wooden images, provoking YaHUsHa to anger. And he will give Israel up because of the sins of Jeroboam, who sinned and who made Israel sin. That's 1 Kings chapter 14, verses 15 and 16. Next, we have acted very corruptly against you, and have not kept the commandments, the statutes, nor the ordinances which you commanded your servant Moses. Remember, I pray, the word that you commanded your servant Moses, saying, if you are unfaithful, I will scatter you among the nations. That's Nehemiah chapter 1, verse 7 and 8. Cover what he did. We'll start here. For YaHUsHa will strike Israel as a reed is shaken in the water. He will uproot Israel from this good. Cover what he did. We'll start here. For YaHUsHa will strike Israel as a reed is shaken in the water. He will uproot Israel from this good land which he gave to their fathers, and will scatter them beyond the river, because they have made their wooden images, provoking YaHUsHa to anger. And he will give Israel up because of the sins of Jeroboam, who sinned and who made Israel sin. That's 1 Kings chapter 14, verses 15 and 16. Next, we have acted very corruptly against you, and have not kept the commandments, the statutes, nor the ordinances which you commanded your servant Moses. Remember, I pray, the word that you commanded your servant Moses, saying, if you are unfaithful, I will scatter you among the nations. That's Nehemiah chapter 1, verse 7 and 8. Also, I will scatter them also among the Gentiles, whom neither they nor their fathers have known. And I will send a sword after them until I have consumed them. Jeremiah chapter 9, verse 16. I will scatter them as with an east wind before the enemy. I will show them the back and not the face in the day of also the nations. That's Nehemiah chapter 1, verse 7 and 8. Also, I will scatter them also among the Gentiles, whom neither they nor their fathers have known. And I will send a sword after them until I have consumed them. Jeremiah chapter 9, verse 16. I will scatter them as with an east wind before the enemy. I will show them the back and not the face in the day of their calamity. Jeremiah chapter 18, verse 17. Or, therefore, fathers shall eat their sons in your midst, and sons shall eat their fathers, and I will execute judgments among you. And all of you who remain, I will scatter to all the winds. Ezekiel chapter 5, verse 10. Also, then they shall know that I am YaHUsHa when I scatter them among the nations and disperse them throughout the countries. But I will spare a few of their men from the sword, from famine, and from pestilence, that they may declare all their abominations among the Gentiles wherever they go. Then they shall know that I am YaHUsHa. Ezekiel chapter 12, verses 15 and 16. Also, and YaHUsHa will scatter you among the peoples, and you will be left few in number among the nations where YaHUsHa will drive you. And there you will serve gods, the works of men's hands, wood and stone, which neither see, nor hear, nor eat, nor smell. Deuteronomy chapter 4, verses 27 and 28. And lastly, and they will fall by the edge of the sword, and be led away captive into all nations. And Jerusalem will be trampled by Gentiles until the times of the Gentiles are fulfilled. Luke chapter 21, verse 24. Okay, so that's the starting point. What you should see from these scriptures, be led away captive into all nations, and Jerusalem will be trampled by Gentiles until the times of the Gentiles are fulfilled. Luke chapter 21, verse 24. Okay, so that's the starting point. What you should see from these scriptures is that Yasharel was punished and then they were scattered. And what you'll see next is that they have dealt with the punishment, which is Jacob's trouble, as is prophesied here in Jeremiah 30. Now these are the words that YaHUsHa spoke concerning Israel and Judah. For thus says YaHUsHa, we have heard a voice of trembling, of fear, and not of peace. Ask now and see whether a man is ever in labor with child. So why do I see every man with his hands on his loins like a woman in labor, and all faces turn pale? Alas, for that day is great, so that none is like it, and it is the time of Jacob's trouble. That's Jeremiah chapter 30, verses 4 through 7. And you see, that's Jacob's trouble. Okay, so that should be understood. You see, Yasharel was punished and exiled from their land because of their disobedience. But YaHUsHa has prophesied that he would not forget their covenant. You must understand that he knew of this before he even sent them into the promised land when they were with Moses. In Deuteronomy chapter 4, it says, when you beget children and grandchildren and have grown old in the land, and act corruptly, and make a carved image in the form of anything, and do evil in the sight of YaHUsHa, your Elohim, to provoke him to anger, I call heaven and earth to witness against you this day that you will soon utterly perish from the land which you crossed over the Jordan to possess. You will not prolong your days in it, but will be utterly destroyed. And YaHUsHa will scatter you among the peoples, and you will be left few in number among the nations where YaHUsHa will drive you. And there you will serve gods, the work of men's hands, wood and stone, which neither see, nor hear, nor eat, nor smell. But from there you will seek YaHUsHa your Elohim, and you will find him if you seek him with all your heart and with all your soul. When you are in distress and all these things come upon you in the latter days, when you turn to YaHUsHa your Elohim and obey his voice, for YaHUsHa your Elohim is a merciful El. He will not forsake you, nor destroy you, nor forget the covenant of your fathers, which he swore to them. That's Deuteronomy chapter 4, verses 25 through 31. You see, he knew of this before they even made it to the land. He knew that they were going to be punished. He said after this distress, Yasharel would seek him genuinely. And he shows this in the same prophecy when speaking about Jacob's trouble. So we just read up to verse 7. Let's continue reading the prophecy of Jacob's trouble in Jeremiah 30 from the place I left off in verse 7. He explains what he plans to do. It says, and it is the time of Jacob's trouble, but he shall be saved out of it. For it shall come to pass in that day, says YaHUsHa of hosts, that I will break his yoke from your neck and will burst your bonds. Foreigners shall no more enslave them, but they shall serve YaHUsHa their Elohim and David their king, whom I will raise up for them. Therefore do not fear, O my servant Jacob, says YaHUsHa, nor be dismayed, O Israel. For behold, I will save you from afar, and your seed from the land of their captivity. Jacob shall return, have rest, and be quiet, and no one shall make him afraid. For I am with you, says YaHUsHa, to save you. Though I make a full end of all nations where I have scattered you, yet I will not make a complete end of you. But I will correct you in justice, and will not let you go altogether unpunished. For thus says YaHUsHa, your affliction is incurable. Your wound is severe. There is no one to plead your cause, that you may be bound up. You have no healing medicines. All your lovers have forgotten you. They do not seek you. For I have wounded you with the wound of an enemy, with the chastisement of a cruel one, for the multitude of your iniquities, because your sins have increased. Why do you cry about your affliction? Your sorrow is incurable. Because of the multitude of your iniquities, because your sins have increased, I have done these things to you. That's Jeremiah chapter 30, verses 4 through 15. So here's some hypocrisy. Christians believe that the Great Tribulation is the time of Jacob's trouble. That's what they believe. But it's actually the opposite. The Great Tribulation is the time when Jacob will be saved out of it, and YaHUsHa will bring Yasharel back from his captivity. And this is what we know as the second Exodus. And like I said in the beginning, this is what I've been leading to, but before I got to the second Exodus, I wanted to explain why this would be occurring. So now that we got that out the way, let me explain the second Exodus. There's a lot of scriptures written on this, but I will focus on one of the most clarifying ones. But I will gather the remnant of my flock out of all countries where I have driven them, and bring them back to their folds, and they shall be fruitful and increase. I will set up shepherds over them who will feed them, and they shall fear no more, nor be dismayed, nor shall they be lacking, says YaHUsHa. Behold, the days are coming, says YaHUsHa, that I will raise to David a branch of righteousness. A king shall reign and prosper, and execute judgment and righteousness in the earth. In his days, Judah will be saved, and Israel will dwell safely. Now this is his name by which he will be called, YaHUsHa, our righteousness. Therefore, behold, the days are coming, says YaHUsHa, that they shall no longer say, as YaHUsHa lives, who brought up the children of Israel from the land of Egypt, but as YaHUsHa lives, who brought up and led the descendants of the house of Israel from the north country and from all the countries where I have driven them, and they shall dwell in their own land. Jeremiah chapter 23, verses 3 through 8. Hallelujah. And here's another. And it shall come to pass in that day that the remnant of Israel, and such as have escaped of the house of Jacob, will never again depend on him who defeated them, but will depend on YaHUsHa, the Holy One of Israel. In truth, the remnant will return, the remnant of Jacob, to the mighty El. For though your people, O Israel, be as the sand of the sea, a remnant of them will return. The destruction decreed shall overflow with righteousness. For YaHUsHa Elohim of hosts will make a determined end in the midst of all the land. That's Isaiah chapter 10, verses 20 through 23. Also, but now, thus says YaHUsHa, who created you, O Jacob, and he who formed you, O Israel, fear not, for I have redeemed you. I have called you by your name. You are mine. When you pass through the waters, I will be with you, and through the rivers, they shall not overflow you. When you walk through the fire, you shall not be burned, nor shall the flame scorch you. For I am YaHUsHa your Elohim, the Holy One of Israel, your Savior. I gave Egypt for your ransom, Ethiopia and Seba in your place. Since you were precious in my sight, you have been honored, and I have loved you. Therefore I will give men for you, and people for your life. Fear not, for I am with you. I will bring your descendants from the east, and gather you from the west. I will say to the north, give them up, and the south, do not keep them back. Bring my sons from afar, and my daughters from the ends of the earth. Isaiah chapter 43, verses 1 through 6. Also, thus says YaHUsHa of hosts, behold, I will save my people from the land of the east and from the land of the west. I will bring them back, and they shall dwell in the midst of Jerusalem. They shall be my people, and I will be their Elohim in truth and righteousness. Zechariah chapter 8, verses 7 and 8. Do you see all this prophecy? And there's many more that speak about this second Exodus. I have a PDF of these scriptures as well that will be on my website for your reference. Again, the link is in the description box. But this is what we're waiting for. This is the promise. And if we understood the Bible, this should be what we're waiting for. Christians literally are believing in fiction that has nothing to do with what he has actually promised. Ask any of them about the second Exodus. Ask any of them about any of these scriptures, and they will not have a clue. Why do you think that is? We are waiting for him to gather YaHUsHa and bring us into the wilderness, just as he showed John in Revelation chapter 12. It says, "Now when the dragon saw that he had been cast to the earth, he persecuted the woman who gave birth to the male child. But the woman was given 2 wings of a great eagle, that she might fly into wilderness to her place, where she is nourished for a time and times and half a time, from the presence of the serpent. So the serpent spewed water out of his mouth like a flood after the woman, that he might cause her to be carried away by the flood. But the earth helped the woman, and the earth opened its mouth and swallowed up the flood which the dragon had spewed out of his mouth. And the dragon was enraged with the woman, and he went to make war with the rest of her offspring, who keep the commandments of Elohim and have the testimony of YaHUsHa the Messiah." Revelation chapter 12, verses 13 through 17. You see, Yahuwah, he takes YaHUsHa into the wilderness away from Satan, and because Satan cannot harm YaHUsHa, he went to persecute the offsprings. That's the Gentiles that did not come in the second Exodus, but now they need to be tested. And that's why it's important to live in the truth. Because if you're not ready, you're going to have it extremely rough dealing with the persecution of the beast and living amongst the judgments in Revelation. Now, we don't know exactly when the second Exodus will start, but we know that before it happens, Yahweh will seal the 144,000 of YaHUsHa first. And based upon scripture, we know this sealing won't happen before at least the first 4 seals are opened. That's when peace is taken from the earth. So events like World War III, civil wars and unrest, etc., those are happening around the world. Then famine and inflation, that's the dollar collapse and the reset of fiat money, which halts all trade. And then from all of that, a quarter of the population goes. We can expect that the second Exodus won't happen before this point because of what is said in Revelation 7 about the seal of YaHUsHa. It says, "After these things, I saw 4 angels standing at the 4 corners of the earth, holding the 4 winds of the earth, that the wind should not blow on the earth, on the sea, or on any tree. I saw another angel ascending from the east, having the seal of the living Elohim, and he cried with a loud voice to the 4 angels to whom it was granted to harm the earth and the sea, saying, 'Do not harm the earth, the sea, or the trees, till we have sealed the servants of our Elohim on their foreheads.'" Revelation chapter 7, verses 1 through 3. And then if you continue reading, he goes down and explains who gets sealed. So as reading that, if you pay attention to the words, it was said to the angels to not harm the earth, the sea, or the trees until the 144,000 are sealed. So during those first 4 seals, the earth, the sea, and the trees, they're not affected. So we know that it doesn't happen before then. But by the 6th seal, the earth is shaken, and by the first trumpet, everything goes nuts. So based upon the word, you can assume that by the time we see a quarter of the population go, soon after this, the 144,000 of YaHUsHa will be sealed. So what do you do with this knowledge now? You should be prepared now to go through some hard and difficult times on the earth while judgment comes to these nations. Though the judgment is not for you, you can't get around what's going to happen to everyone that's living here. The world is going to change, and life as you know it right now, it's going to change. So as the world goes through its judgments, you must prepare for times of war, prepare for civil unrest, famine, absolute money problems, and massive death. If you are prepared, then as these events happen, you will not be shaken, and you will just know that you are to just watch and wait. Very similar to how YaHUsHa did in Egypt as all those judgments came for the Egyptians. If you know these things are happening, and you know they have nothing to do with you, you will be fine. But those not prepared spiritually and mentally, they will have difficult times ahead, which is why I spoke so much against the pre-tribulation rapture. That doctrine is going to lead a great majority in panic and distress because they are not prepared. I mean, there are so many that don't want to hear that truth, and they're going to have an issue when this all happens. If you are ready, it doesn't have to be you. Consider yourself to be like YaHUsHa in Egypt. As the plagues went against the Egyptians, it had nothing to do with them. It's the same for you. Now, people often ask questions about who and what are the 144,000. I don't have answers except that he's very specific. 12,000 from each tribe of YaHUsHa. Back in the day, I used to think that that was such a small number, when I look at the world today and see how many people are really against his truths, today that number seems big. But either way, it's 144,000 of YaHUsHa that gets sealed. We don't have much more information on this, and that's by Yah's design. We don't know if that's each individual person, like the members of my family, or if it's by household. We don't know exactly how the sealing works, but we know it's 144,000. I don't listen to all of the people's analysis about the 144,000. There have been so many different doctrines and beliefs surrounding them. I turn it all off. I pay attention to none of it. If it doesn't match exactly what the scriptures say, I ignore it. The only thing you know is what Yah has said about it, nothing else. Like the Jehovah's Witnesses, they completely made a false belief surrounding them. What we know is that the 144,000 of YaHUsHa around the world will be sealed. And I believe that it's all about the second Exodus. And I'll explain that soon. Now, please note that these 144,000 are not the same 144,000 in Revelation 14. The ones in Revelation 14 are already in heaven with the Lamb before the living creatures and the elders. This is not the same as what is in Revelation chapter 7. Please read it all in context. Read them both and understand the difference. Now, the next important part is about the two witnesses. I feel that when the two witnesses come, we will receive more clarity because it said that they will prophesy for 1,260 days. It says, "And I will give power to my two witnesses, and they will prophesy 1,260 days clothed in sackcloth." Revelation chapter 11, verse 3. So they're going to be here prophesying. You see, people have a lot of different interpretations saying that these two witnesses are this or they're that. Many different interpretations, just like with the 144,000. But I believe they are what is told. That's it. They are the two witnesses that stand before our Father. It says, "These are the two olive trees and two lampstands standing before the Elohim of the earth." Revelation chapter 11, verse 4. And you see, this concurs with what is spoken in Zechariah chapter 4. It says, "Then I answered and said to him, what are these two olive trees at the right of the lampstand and at its left? And I further answered and said to him, what are these two olive branches that drip into the receptacles of the two golden pipes, from which the golden oil drains? Then he answered me and said, do you not know what these are? And I said, no, my Adonai. So he said, these are the two anointed ones who stand beside the Adonai of the whole earth. Zechariah chapter 4, verses 11 through 14. It's the same thing written of them that we see in Revelation 11. There are many speculations about who these men could be, but it really doesn't matter right now because it's all speculation. What we do know is that these two anointed ones come down and they prophesy. And based on what is written, they are physically here. They have power. It says, these have power to shut heaven so that no rain falls in the days of their prophecy. And they have power over waters to turn them to blood and to strike the earth with all plagues as often as they desire. Revelation chapter 11, verse 6. And we know they're physically here because at some point they're going to be killed and 3 days rise from the dead and get taken back up to heaven. So again, I believe they're physically here based upon all that said. I mean, it says, then those from the peoples, tribes, tongues, and nations will see their dead bodies 3.5 days and not allow their dead bodies to be put into graves. Revelation chapter 11, verse 9. You see, if everyone is looking at their dead bodies, you should expect them to be physically here. It's just that simple. Anyways, they're here to prophesy, and they will be here for us. If they're here to prophesy, I'm waiting to hear what they come back and prophesy and say. Right now, we have a lot of unanswered questions, and I believe Yah is going to send them to prophesy and provide more clarity about what we need to do for the second Exodus. He's sending his anointed ones to prophesy for us, and when they come, we will gain clarity for those with ears to hear. Now, here's the thing. I don't know exactly what he will do and how he will do it. When he removed YaHUsHa from Egypt in the first Exodus, they did not know what he was going to do until right before he did it and gave instructions. When we see the plagues and judgments in Revelation, we can look at them as being similar judgments before he removed YaHUsHa from Egypt. The most important thing that YaHUsHa needed to do at that time was trust in Yah and wait on him. This is our same requirement. Today, people sit and they wait for this false pre-tribulation rapture, all because they don't trust Yahuwah enough in their lives that he can really cover and guard them during their trials. But again, we don't know completely what he's going to do, but he did give us clues. Like he did in the first Exodus, when he gave the firstborn of Egypt up for us in the Passover. He said in Isaiah 43 that He gave Egypt for our ransom and Ethiopia and Seba in our place. He said, therefore I will give men for you and people for your life. So other nations, other people are going to be judged. They're going to come into judgment just so he can hold them as ransom for us. So obviously there's going to be problems in this world, and he's going to force Satan to give us up or it's all over. And here's the thing. The world, they're not going to understand it, and it's not going to look like a good thing. The media is not going to spin it and say, oh, this is YaHUsHa getting ready for the second Exodus. Absolutely not. And if that's your expectations, you're not going to be ready for what's happening. I remember there was a short skit of this where aliens said that they wanted only black people or something like that.
Put more simply, in trade for solving all your most pressing domestic catastrophes, we are asking for every person in your country that you would classify as black.
Are you kidding?
No, we are not.
I'm posting that video to my website. These Masons are expecting something, I promise you that. Anyways, when the world hears what's going on, it will not sound like a good thing to everyone else. Again, the media is not going to promote it as the second Exodus of the Bible. You're not going to hear Anderson Cooper talking about this is Yah bringing judgment and bringing his children back. Absolutely not. You're going to need discernment and understanding and understand what it is that is happening in this world. And if you don't know Bible prophecy, that's exactly why you will not be ready for it. Yah is going to do it though, and he's doing it with fury poured out. So while the world is being judged, we should expect Yah to be moving. Don't let it surprise you that the movement with immigration in this country has something to do with it though. There's a reason why they're doing all of this right now. It's possible that they're making it an issue, making us actually fight to stay here instead of leaving because Yah is calling us. So when it happens later and they bring it onto us, we're fighting to stay here instead of understanding that Yah is calling us home. And many will stay because they were fighting to be in Babylon instead of recognizing that this is the second Exodus. Please use discernment. Also, we see Trump doing travel bans in many places where Yasharel are scattered, and I hear that he's going to be doing some more. The places he seems to be targeting are not by accident. There's obviously an agenda. One of the agendas could be just reverse psychology, to get us to fight to be in Babylon instead of understanding that they are saying it's time for us to leave. So if you see more travel bans, don't react with the rest of the world. It's a game. People want what they can't have. Imagine fighting to stay in a place that hates you and wants to oppress you. If they start making it hard for us to leave or stay, don't react like the mind-controlled ones here. Don't do any of that. Don't follow the mind control. Don't follow all that racist nonsense. It doesn't matter. If you understand prophecy, you will be ready. But again, many will not be, and they will be judged. We do not know what he will do. But just like he showed his power to Egypt, expect the same thing, except with more power. Again, we don't know exactly how he's going to do it, but we know that he will do it because he has said it many times over. It's up to us to make sure that we believe him. So we must wait on him and trust him to do it. I know everyone has a lot of questions like, what about this? Or will he do that? I don't have all the answers. Now, as I keep saying, nobody knows for sure. But in regards to the second Exodus, I will tell you what I feel will happen. I obviously don't know this for sure, and this is when I say I am speculating. But I believe that the second Exodus may occur during the time of the fifth trumpet. It says, then out of the smoke locusts came upon the earth, and to them was given power, as the scorpions of the earth have power. They were commanded not to harm the grass of the earth, or any green thing, or any tree, but only those men who do not have the seal of Elohim on their foreheads. And they were not given authority to kill them, but to torment them for 5 months. Their torment was like the torment of a scorpion when it strikes a man. Revelation chapter 9, verse 3 through 5. So look, at that period, the whole world is going to be tormented for 5 months. And so I feel that this will be the time of the second Exodus. The rest of the world will be attacked by locusts, and only those sealed will be able to move freely. So I believe he is giving us a window to move in this world without anyone bothering us, and we will have access to everything. For 5 months, everyone will be tormented, and it will be a natural lockdown. Very similar to how the world was shut down from COVID, but everyone will be locked away except those sealed. Now let me also say this, if you're a wild branch, please do not have fear. Yah knows you, and he has promised to cover those faithful to him. That's his promise. I believe that we all will gain clarity when the two witnesses appear. I also believe that everyone attached to the 144,000 will be able to leave and go where we're told to go. But the many that are so against this truth, they're going to have problems. Again, being clear, this is my speculation, and I'm not saying it's 100% solid and not able to be challenged, but it makes sense to me, so I'm bringing it out. He is very specific about how long the locusts will be attacking everyone. No one will be able to halt us from coming to where he tells us to go. But we will see. All I know is that during this time, at some point, we will be led into the wilderness, into safety. And because of all that, the devil, seeing that he could do nothing to us, he's going to attack those that did not come with us. And that's when you see what happens in Revelation 13 and after. Now, while YaHUsHa is in the wilderness, YaHUwah says he will deal with us face to face. It says, "As I live, says YaHUwah Elohim, surely with a mighty hand, with an outstretched arm, and with fury poured out, I will rule over you. I will bring you out from the peoples and gather you out of the countries where you are scattered, with a mighty hand, with an outstretched arm, and with fury poured out. And I will bring you into the wilderness of the peoples, and there will plead my case with you face to face, just as I pleaded my case with your fathers in the wilderness of the land of Egypt. So I will plead my case with you, says YaHUwah Elohim. I will make you pass under the rod, and I will bring you into the bond of the covenant. I will purge the rebels from among you, and those who transgress against me. I will bring them out of the country where they dwell, but they shall not enter the land of Israel. Then you will know that I am YaHUwah." Ezekiel chapter 20, verses 33 to 38. And so if you're following this so far, this is what we're all waiting to happen. We should be waiting for the second Exodus and for YaHUwah to gather us into the wilderness where he will plead his case with us face to face, gathering us from where he scattered us and bringing us into the bond of the covenant. He is even going to purge out the rebels from amongst us. It's important to know that in the second Exodus, some will come with us that do not belong, and they all will be dealt with. This is actual Bible prophecy and what we're waiting for right now. So let's understand it clearly. First, YaHUsHa rebelled and sinned against YaHUwah. Second, because of their sins, YaHUwah punished and scattered YaHUsHa to the four corners of the earth. 3, in the last days, YaHUwah will gather his flock of YaHUsHa where he scattered them and bring them to the wilderness where he will deal with them face to face as he did in the first Exodus. That is the whole setup. While the world panics and they move all outside of Yah's will, if you stay grounded in your faith, you will do fine. Use what happened during the times of COVID as an example. Remember, everyone was panicking, frantic, living in fear. If you knew to turn off all those other voices and just trust Yah, you would have enjoyed that period. I know I enjoyed the period of COVID. My biggest irritation was just watching the people living in fear and that were mind controlled. That was my biggest problem. It was those stupid masks, but everything else, it was great because the streets were clear. But here's the deal. In this coming situation, there will actually be a reason for people to fear because they're going to lose everything. If you stayed grounded in Yah and you trust in him, you will be ready when he calls us. So understand, I don't know what he will do exactly because it's not only about us here in America, we're scattered all over the world. But I know he said he will do it, and he said it many times. So I trust him to do so. And that's what the second Exodus is about. But the next question is, what happens next after the second Exodus and he gathers us? And so there's a lot more to go over and explain, but I could not get there without covering all of this in the second Exodus, because the next parts, they won't make sense to you if you don't understand the second Exodus. So I'm sorry if you heard all of this before, if you watched my videos about this in the past, but I can't do a teaching without providing proper foundation. So this is understanding the second Exodus, but next we will lead into what happens in the millennial kingdom. So go to part 2 of this and understand what happens when we get to the millennial kingdom. If you want to understand what's prophesied to happen after the second Exodus, I will explain it in part 2. I hope this helps all of you who are just looking for clarity about the last days. I'm gathering scriptures together and putting them in.
Is it possible to define the single best stock trade every single day? I'm Emily Turner, award-winning journalist and host of Unfiltered Finance YouTube channel. One of the experts that I've interviewed recently says that he built a tool.
In part 1 of this brief series, I started explaining the millennial reign. But in order to get there, I had to deal with the second Exodus first. This is a major piece of Bible prophecy that must take place before YaHUsHa is restored as a nation again and put back in our land. If you remember from part 1, I explained that YaHUsHa rebelled and sinned against Yahuwah. And 2, because of their sins, Yahuwah punished and scattered YaHUsHa to the 4 corners of the earth. Then 3, in the last days, Yahuwah will gather his flock of YaHUsHa where he scattered them and bring them to the wilderness where he will deal with them face to face as he did in the first Exodus. And you see, that's the main understanding that needs to be had. But after YaHUsHa is gathered in the wilderness, there's a lot more that will happen before YaHUsHa's return. So we need to read about it. So we will continue with this discussion about the millennial kingdom. Let's keep going. Okay, so where we're at in Bible prophecy, we were discussing the second Exodus. Please understand that for the rest of the world, they're dealing with problems during this time. We can read in Revelation about the seals, the trumpets, and the bowl judgments, and understand that the world is going through a lot of problems. But those in the second Exodus, they are blessed and they're guarded. If you remember what Yahuwah said in Isaiah 43, when you pass through the waters, I will be with you, and through the rivers they shall not overflow you. When you walk through the fire, you shall not be burned, nor shall the flames scorch you. You see, they're covered and they're guarded. But if you remember in Revelation chapter 12, the devil, he's sending a flood towards us and making the world completely against us. And by the time of the end, at the tribulation, we know that what is coming is the battle of Armageddon. Now, here's the thing. Most people, they know of what's written about the battle of Armageddon from what's written in Revelation. But the details are really spoken about this in the book of Ezekiel when Yahuwah prophesies of this. So let's read it there. Now the word of Yahuwah came to me saying, Son of man, set your face against Gog of the land of Magog, the prince of Rosh, Meshech, and Tubal, and prophesy against him and say, Thus says Yahuwah Elohim, Behold, I am against you, O Gog, the prince of Rosh, Meshech, and Tubal. I will turn you around, put hooks into your jaws, and lead you out, and with all your army, horses, and horsemen, and splendidly clothed, in great company with bucklers and shields. Now here's the thing. Most people, they know of what's written about the battle of Armageddon from what's written in Revelation. But the details are really spoken about this in the book of Ezekiel when Yahuwah prophesies of this. So let's read it there. Now the word of Yahuwah came to me saying, Son of man, set your face against Gog of the land of Magog, the prince of Rosh, Meshech, and Tubal, and prophesy against him and say, Thus says Yahuwah Elohim, Behold, I am against you, O Gog, the prince of Rosh, Meshech, and Tubal. I will turn you around, put hooks into your jaws, and lead you out, and with all your army, horses, and horsemen, and splendidly clothed, in great company with bucklers and shields, all of them handling swords. Persia, Ethiopia, and Libya are with them, all of them with shields and helmets. Gomer and all its troops, the house of Togarmah from the far north and all its troops. Many people are with you. Prepare yourself and be ready, you and your companies that are gathered about you, and be a guard for them. After many days you will be visited. In the latter years you will come into the land of those brought back from the sword and gathered from many on the mountains of Israel, which had long been desolate. They were brought out of the nations, and now all of them dwell safely. You will ascend, coming like a storm, covering the land like a cloud, you and all your troops and many peoples with you. Thus says Yahuwah Elohim, on that day it shall come to pass that thoughts will arise in your mind, and you will make an evil plan. You will say, I will go up against a land of unwalled villages. I will go to a peaceful people who dwell safely, all of them dwelling without walls and having neither bars nor gates, to take plunder and to take booty, to stretch out your hand against the waste places that are again inhabited, and against a people gathered from the nations who have acquired livestock and goods, who dwell in the midst of the land. Sheba, Dedan, the merchants of Tarshish, and all the young lions will say to you, Have you come to take plunder? Have you gathered your army to take booty, to carry away silver and gold, to take away livestock and goods to take plunder? Therefore, son of man, prophesy and say to God, Thus says Yahuwah Elohim, on that day when my people YaHUsHa dwell safely, will you not know it? Then you will come from your place out of the far north, you and many peoples with you, all of them riding on horses, a great company and mighty army. You will come up against my people YaHUsHa like a cloud, to cover the land. It will be in the latter days that I will bring you against my land, so that the nations may know me, when I am hallowed in you, O Gog, before their eyes. Thus says Yahweh Elohim, are you he of whom I have spoken in former days by my servants, the prophets of Yasharel, who prophesied for years in those days that I will bring you against them? And it will come to pass at that same time when Gog comes against the land of Yasharel, says Yahweh Elohim, that my fury will show in my face. For in my jealousy and in the fire of my wrath I have spoken. Surely in that day there will be a great earthquake in the land of Yasharel, so that the fish of the sea and the birds of the heaven, the beasts of the field, all creeping things that creep on the earth, and all men who are on the face of the earth shall shake at my presence. The mountains shall be thrown down, the steep places shall fall, and every wall shall fall to the ground. I will call for a sword against Gog throughout all my mountains, says Yahweh Elohim. Every man's sword will be against his brother, and I will bring him to judgment with pestilence and bloodshed. I will rain down on him, on his troops, and on the many peoples who are with him, great hailstones, fire, and brimstone. Thus I will magnify myself and sanctify myself, and I will be known in the eyes of many nations. Then they shall know that I am Yahweh. Ezekiel chapter 38, verses 1 through 23. Okay, so this is a big deal. You see the nations set to come against Yasharel. Yahuwah said that they are dwelling safely. During the second Exodus, just like the first Exodus, Yasharel, they left with abundance of livestock and goods. It will be the same when we return the second time. Now the nations of the world, they set their eyes to come to the land of Yasharel and attack Yasharel. Yah said it's these people that came back and were dwelling safely, but the nations of the world declared themselves that they would come against Yasharel. And you see, he's doing this so that all the nations know that he is Yahweh. He is declaring his dominance in the world and showing exactly who it is that controls this world. So he's doing this to show the rest of the world who he is, just the same way he did in the first Exodus when he judged Egypt. Now we understand all this even more deeply when we line it up with what is prophesied in the book of Revelation. This all lines up with what is prophesied in Revelation chapter 16. It says, then the sixth angel poured out his bowl on the great river Euphrates, and its water was dried up, so that the way of the kings from the east might be prepared. And I saw three unclean spirits like frogs coming out of the mouth of the dragon, out of the mouth of the beast, and out of the mouth of the false prophet. For they are spirits of demons, performing signs which go out to the kings of the earth and of the whole world to gather them to the battle of that great day of El Shaddai. Behold, I am coming as a thief. Blessed is he who watches and keeps his garments, lest he walk naked and they see his shame. And they gather them together to the place called in Hebrew Armageddon. Revelation chapter 16, verses 12 through 16. And so we do know that this is how they're able to come up against Yasharel, because the Euphrates River dried up. But if you remember in Ezekiel 38, it speaks of a great earthquake that happens. It said, surely in that day there shall be a great earthquake in the land of Yasharel, so that the fish of the sea, the birds of the heaven, the beasts of the field, all creeping things that creep on the earth, and all men who are on the face of the earth shall shake at my presence. Ezekiel 38, verses 19 and 20. You see, this is the same thing prophesied that happened in Revelation 16, when the armies come to war against Yasharel. It says, as you keep reading, then the seventh angel poured out his bowl into the air, and a loud voice came out of the temple of heaven from the throne saying, it is done. And there were noises and thunderings and lightnings, and there was a great earthquake, such a mighty and great earthquake as had not occurred since men were on the earth. Now the great city was divided into three parts, and the cities of the nations fell. And great Babylon was remembered before Elohim to give her the cup of wine of the fierceness of his wrath. Then every island fled away, and the mountains were not found. And great hail from heaven fell upon men, each hailstone about the weight of a talent. Men blasphemed Elohim because of the plague of the hail, since that plague was exceedingly great. That's Revelation chapter 16, verses 17 through 21. You see, it all goes together. So, okay, the nations have come to war against Yasharel in the wilderness. Let's keep reading Ezekiel chapter 38. And you, son of man, prophesy against Gog and say, thus says Yahweh Elohim, behold, I am against you, O Gog, the prince of Rosh, Meshach, and Tubal, and I will turn you around and lead you on, bring you up from the far north, and bring you against the mountains of Yasharel. Then I will knock the bow out of your left hand and cause the arrows to fall out of your right hand. You shall fall upon the mountains of Yasharel, you and all your troops and the peoples who are with you. I will give you to the birds of prey of every sort and to the beasts of the fields to be devoured. You shall fall on the open field, for I have spoken, says Yahweh Elohim. And you, son of man, prophesy against Gog and say, thus says Yahweh Elohim, behold, I am against you, O Gog, the prince of Rosh, Meshech, and Tubal, and I will turn you around and lead you on, bring you up from the far north, and bring you against the mountains of Yasharel. Then I will knock the bow out of your left hand and cause the arrows to fall out of your right hand. You shall fall upon the mountains of Yasharel, you and all your troops and the peoples who are with you. I will give you to the birds of prey of every sort and to the beasts of the fields to be devoured. You shall fall on the open field, for I have spoken, says Yahweh Elohim. And I will send fire on Magog and those who live in security in the coastlands. Then they shall know that I am Yahweh. So I will make my holy name known in the midst of my people Yasharel, and I will not let them profane my holy name anymore. Then the nations shall know that I am Yahweh, the Holy One in Yasharel. Surely it is coming, and it shall be done, says Yahweh Elohim. This is the day of which I have spoken. Then those who dwell in the cities of Yasharel will go out and set on fire and burn the weapons, both the shields and bucklers, the bow and arrows, the javelins and spears, and they will make fires with them for 7 years. They will not take wood from the field, nor cut down any from the forest, because they will make fires with the weapons, and they will plunder those who plunder them, and pillage those who pillage them, says Yahweh Elohim. It will come to pass in that day that I will give Gog a burial place there in Yasharel, the valley of those who pass by east of the sea, and it will obstruct travelers, because there they will bury Gog in all his multitude. Therefore, they will call it the valley of Haman Gog. For 7 months, the house of Yasharel will be burying them in order to cleanse the land. Indeed, all the people of the land will be burying, and they will gain renown for it on the day that I am glorified, says Yahweh Elohim. They will set apart men regularly employed with the help of a search party to pass through the land and bury those bodies remaining on the ground in order to cleanse it. At the end of the 7 months, they will make a search. The search party will pass through the land, and when anyone sees a man's bone, he shall set up a marker by it, till the buriers have buried it in the valley of Haman Gog. The name of the city will also be Hamona. Thus they shall cleanse the land. And as for you, son of man, thus says Yahweh Elohim, speak to every sort of bird and to every beast of the field. Assemble yourselves and come. Gather together from all sides to my sacrificial meal, which I am sacrificing for you. A great sacrificial meal on the mountains of Yasharel, that you may eat flesh and drink blood. You shall eat the flesh of the mighty, drink the blood of the princes of the earth, of rams and lambs, of goats and bulls, all them fatlings of Bashan. You shall eat fat till you are full, and drink blood till you're drunk. At my sacrificial meal which I am sacrificing for you, you shall be filled at my table with horses and riders, with mighty men, and with all the men of war, says Yahweh Elohim. I will set my glory among the nations. All the nations shall see my judgment which I have executed, and my hand which I laid on them. So the house of Yasharel shall know that I am Yahweh the Elohim that from that day forward. The Gentiles shall know that the house of Yasharel went into captivity for their iniquity, because they were unfaithful to me. Therefore I hid my face from them. I gave them into the hand of their enemies, and they all fell by the sword. According to their uncleanness and according to their transgressions, I have dealt with them and hidden my face from them. Therefore, thus says Yahweh Elohim, now I will bring back the captives of Jacob and have mercy on the whole house of Yasharel, and I will be jealous for my holy name. After they have borne their shame and all their unfaithfulness in which they were unfaithful to me, when they dwelt safely in their own land and no one made them afraid, when I have brought them back from the peoples and gathered them out of their enemies' lands, and I am hallowed in them in the sight of many nations, then they shall know that I am Yahweh their Elohim, who sent them into captivity among the nations, but also brought them back to their land and left none of them captive any longer. And I will not hide my face from them any more, for I shall have poured out my spirit on the house of Yasharel, says Yahweh Elohim. That's Ezekiel chapter 39, verses 1 through 29. My goodness, he proclaims so much here. But one thing's for sure, you know that he is doing this so that the world knows it's Yahuwah who reigns, and it's YaHUsHa who is doing this. He wants us to really know who it is that we serve, who really controls this world. He is bringing judgment to the nations. And this all goes along with how he prophesied to the birds that they were going to feast on the flesh of these men that came to war against him. You see that in Revelation 19 too. Then I saw an angel standing in the sun, and he cried with a loud voice, saying to all the birds that fly in the midst of heaven, "Come and gather together for the supper of the great Elohim, that you may eat the flesh of kings, the flesh of captains, the flesh of mighty men, the flesh of horses and those who sit on them, and the flesh of all people, free and slave, both small and great." And I saw the beast, the kings of the earth and their armies, gathered together to make war against him who sat on the horse and against his army. Revelation chapter 19, verses 17 and 19. Yah says that after this, those of us in the land will be using their supplies for years. We'll be making fires using all their weapons that came against us. We'll be burying their bodies. This is all activity that we'll be doing after they are all defeated. We will all be blessed. Many of you that do not have husbands and wives right now, you're wondering if that's your life forever. No, you have blessings waiting for you in the kingdom if you're faithful. If you remember what's prophesied, Yah already spoke about what he's going to do when we come back to the land. In Jeremiah 23, if you remember what he said, "I will gather the remnant of my flock out of all countries where I have driven them and bring them back to their folds, and they shall be fruitful and increase." You're going to be fruitful. You're going to increase in the land. This is a blessing. This is the times of blessing for us. Understand what he's prophesied. Let's study more about this because he's spoken about this to other prophets as well. Let's read about this in Zechariah. It says, "Behold, the day of YaHUsHa is coming, and your spoil will be divided in your midst. For I will gather all the nations to battle against Jerusalem. The city shall be taken, the houses rifled, and the woman ravished. Half of the city shall go into captivity, but the remnant of the people shall not be cut off from the city. Then YaHUsHa will go forth and fight against those nations, as he fights in the day of battle. And in that day, his feet will stand on the Mount of Olives, which faces Jerusalem on the east. And the Mount of Olives shall be split in two, from east to west, making a very large valley. Half of the mountains shall move toward the north, and half of it toward the south. Then you shall flee through my mountain valley, for the mountain valley shall reach to Azal. Yes, you shall flee as you fled from an earthquake, in the days of Uzziah, king of Judah. Thus YaHUsHa, my Elohim, will come, and all the saints with you. It shall come to pass in that day that there will be no light. The lights will diminish. It shall be one day which is known to YaHUsHa, neither day nor night. But at evening time it shall happen that it will be light. And in that day it shall be that the living water shall flow through Jerusalem, half of them toward the eastern sea and half of them toward the western sea. And both summer and winter it shall occur. And YaHUsHa shall be king over all the earth. In that day shall be YaHUsHa is one, and his name one. All the land shall be turned into the plain from Jeba to Ramon south of Jerusalem. Jerusalem shall be raised up and inhabited in her place from Benjamin's gate to the place of the first gate in the corner gate, and from the tower of Hananel to the king's wine presses. The people shall dwell in it, and no longer shall there be utter destruction, but Jerusalem shall be safely inhabited. And this shall be the plague with which YaHUsHa will strike all the people who fought against Jerusalem. Their flesh shall dissolve while standing on their feet. Their eyes shall dissolve in their sockets, and their tongue shall dissolve in their mouths. It shall come to pass in that day that a great panic from YaHUsHa will be among them. Everyone will seize the hand of his neighbor and raise his hand against his neighbor's hand. Judah also will fight at Jerusalem, and the wealth of all surrounding nations shall be gathered together, gold, silver, and apparel in great abundance. Such as also shall be the plague on the horses and the mule, on the camel and the donkey, and on the cattle that will be in those camps. So shall this plague be. That's Zechariah chapter 14, verses 1 through 15. And you see, if you start from verse 1, it may confuse you because he's talking about the initial judgment that Judah had when they were already in the land, and when he judged them and had them cast out. But later he's speaking about the judgment that he's going against all the other nations, and it lines up completely with what we've read in Ezekiel and Revelation 19. Matter of fact, let's read it in full from Revelation 19. It says, "Now I saw heaven opened, and behold, a white horse, and he who sat on him was called Faithful and True, and in righteousness he judges and makes war. His eyes were like a flame of fire, and on his head were many crowns. He had a name written that no one knew except himself. He was clothed with a robe dipped in blood, and his name is called the Word of YaHUsHa. And the armies in heaven, clothed in fine linen, white and clean, followed him on white horses. Now out of his mouth goes a sharp sword, that with it he should strike the nations. And he himself will rule them with a rod of iron. He himself treads the winepress of the fierceness and wrath of El Shaddai. And he has on his robe and on his thigh a name written, King of Kings and Lord of Lords. Then I saw an angel standing in the sun, and he cried with a loud voice, saying to all the birds that fly in the midst of heaven, come and gather together for the supper of the great Elohim, that you may eat the flesh of kings, the flesh of captains, the flesh of the mighty men, the flesh of horses, and those who sit on them, and the flesh of all people, free and slave, both small and great. And I saw the beasts, the kings of the earth, and their armies gathered together to make war against him who sat on the horse and against his army. Then the beast was captured, and with him the false prophet who worked signs in his presence, by which he deceived those who received the mark of the beast and those who worshipped his image. These two were cast alive into the lake of fire, burning with brimstone. And the rest were killed with the sword which proceeded from the mouth of him who sat on the horse. And all the birds were filled with their flesh. Revelation chapter 19, verses 11 through 21. You see, it's all the same thing. When we're reading the Bible and not adding the Old Testament prophecies in with our understandings, it does not provide a clear picture for us. He has testified of all these things and shown us what to expect. You see, Christians have believed in the pre-tribulation rapture because they don't recognize that the beast is coming against true Yasharel when we're gathered to safety. This is what will be happening in those days after all those seals, trumpets, and bowls are poured out on the world. And we see that YaHUsHa comes down and defeats them all. And this is where he comes to reign. And so please note this. It is at this time where the rapture that you see in 1 Thessalonians chapter 4, this is where it applies. This will be the time of what people want to call the rapture. When everyone's scattered, not in the wilderness with Yasharel, everyone will be caught up to meet Messiah in the air. Those who keep the commandments and pass the trials and survived will be caught up. I have thoroughly went over this in this video, so I will not go over those scriptures, but I have explained it in depth in this video if you have not seen it. But this is the point where that will happen. Not any time before this. This is when Messiah comes back down. This is biblically the only time people should be expected to be caught up in the air with Messiah. It's on his second coming when he comes down to reign. Now also, you should pay attention to the words Yah has prophesied, because he said much of our land has been left desolate. Because of words like this, you can see that there's reasons why people like my brother Larry Johnson and others have, among many other reasons, they feel that the land that they say is Israel is not actually our land. There's a lot of evidence that supports this, but I am not personally able to teach that just because I try to teach what I can prove, because people use anything to try to discredit me. But YaHUsHa said some of our land is desolate, deserted of people, and in a state of bleak and dismal emptiness. All I'm saying is please pay attention to all of his words. But in the end, all of us, we will go where our Father leads us. So while I do feel it's right to speculate that these people are probably lying to us, I rest assured that wherever we're supposed to go, Yah will lead us. And so I just want to put that out there because you can read the words for yourself and see that based on the current narrative, all of that, it doesn't completely gel. But we will see. So during and after the second Exodus, and he gathers us to the wilderness, the world will be dealing with plagues and judgments. Those not gathered with Yasharel will be persecuted by the beast. This will be many true believers that did not want to understand truly who Yasharel was. They probably saw this topic about who Yasharel is as being about race, but they still loved Yah. They were not ready for the second Exodus, and they will be tested. They are the offspring of Yasharel as spoken of in Revelation chapter 12. While we are in the wilderness, the rest of the world is going to be dealing with judgments. And eventually, due to Satan speaking great words, they're going to come into the land where we are and come to attack us. But it will be at this time that YaHUsHa will come down and defeat them. This is where everything is leading to. And once this happens, then we come to the millennial reign. Let's read about it in Revelation chapter 20. It says, "Then I saw an angel coming down from heaven, having the key to the bottomless pit, and a great chain in his hand. He laid hold of the dragon, that serpent of old, who was the devil and Satan, and bound him for 1,000 years. And he cast him into the bottomless pit, and shut him up, and set a seal on him, so that he should deceive the nations no more till the 1,000 years were finished. But after these things, he must be released for a little while. And I saw thrones, and they sat on them, and the judgment was committed to them. Then I saw the souls of those who had been beheaded for their witness to YaHUsHa, and for the word of Elohim, who had not worshipped the beast or his image, and had not received his mark on their foreheads or on their hands. And they lived and reigned with Messiah for 1,000 years. But the rest of the dead did not live again until the 1,000 years were finished. This is the first resurrection, and holy is he who has part in the first resurrection. Over such the second death has no power. But they shall be priests of Elohim and of Messiah, and shall reign with him 1,000 years. That's Revelation chapter 20, verses 1 through 6. You see, this is the 1,000-year reign of Messiah. This should be the main goal that we are all enduring to the end to be a part of. This is it. This is the goal. Now, it's important that you do not mix this up with the new heaven or the new earth and the new Jerusalem. That prophecy comes after. This right here is the period when our Messiah reigns as king for 1,000 years over the restored nation of Yasharel, and he will rule the world in peace. This is what the whole entire Bible that we're reading is all about. This right here is the promise that we should all be waiting for. That's what we're trying to get to. There are more scriptures that speak about this, like in Daniel chapter 7. It says, "Then the kingdom and dominion, and the greatness of the kingdoms under the whole heaven shall be given to the people, the saints of the Most High. His kingdom is an everlasting kingdom, and all dominions shall serve and obey him." Daniel chapter 7, verse 27. And this is what, again, we're all waiting for. This is the kingdom we should be preparing for. And if I could just use this to bring it back to why I speak against Christianity, please allow me to. I speak against Christianity because Christians are not being prepared for any of this. I mean, go into any Christian assembly and try to have a conversation about any of these things I'm spoken of here and see where it brings you. And the worst part you'll find is that instead of humbling themselves and relearning, most of them will double down on pride and just attack you because you're presenting things their religion has never made you consider, even though it's right in the scriptures. They literally will make you an enemy because you don't support their false doctrines, and they will make it their business to attack you. Their goals are completely different than what we should biblically be waiting for. That's why I speak against Christianity. But let's keep going. Let's keep learning more about what Yahuwah has said about this time when Messiah rules as king. It says, "Then say to them, thus says Adonai Yahuwah, surely I will take the children of Israel from among the nations wherever they have gone, and will gather them from every side and bring them into their own land, and I will make them one nation in the land on the mountains of Israel, and one king shall be king over them all. They shall no longer be two nations, nor shall they ever be divided into two kingdoms again. They shall not defile themselves any more with their idols, nor with their detestable things, nor with any of their transgressions, but I will deliver them from all the dwelling places in which they have sinned, and will cleanse them. Then they shall be my people, and I will be their Elohim. David, my servant, shall be king over them, and they shall have all one shepherd. They shall also walk in my judgments and observe my statutes and do them. Then they shall dwell in the land that I have given to Jacob, my servant, where your fathers dwelt, and they shall dwell there, they, their children, and their children's children forever. And my servant David shall be their prince forever. Moreover, I will make a covenant of peace with them, and it shall be an everlasting covenant with them. I will establish them and multiply them, and I will set my sanctuary in their midst forevermore. My tabernacle also shall be with them. Indeed, I will be their Elohim, and they shall be my people. The nations also will know that I, Yahuwah, sanctify Israel, when my sanctuary is in their midst forevermore." It's Ezekiel chapter 37, verses 21 through 28. And you see, this is what Yahuwah has promised to do. And it's important that you have not quenched the Ruach in your lives so much so that you're against this prophecy from coming to pass. So many people arguing that it's not about Israel any longer, and identifying who Israel is not important. We just need to focus on Jesus, all those kind of words. These are people in spiritual blindness that are not fully walking aligned to Yah's will. Religion has blinded them, and they are not focusing fully on what Yah has promised, or what his prophecies are. Religion just has us focus on ourselves instead of being a servant of the Most High and being about his will. So you know what? Of course, deception will make it be that you do not understand Yah's plan for the end times and where this world is headed to. But this is the promise that we're all walking towards right now. The millennial kingdom in which YaHUsHa will finally take the throne as king, and we will live amongst him in his kingdom. We will be blessed in it, and we will multiply in it. It says us, our children, and our children's children forever. If you claim faith in Messiah, but you are not living your life towards this goal, if you do not have this kingdom in your mind, then you must go back and pray and strengthen your walk and faith in him. This is it right here. This is what we're all about. Anybody that says that they are a believer or take that label of Christian and they are not living for this goal right now, they need to reevaluate their faith. Understand is that this point in time is when Israel and Judah is joined back together again into one kingdom, and they will not be defiled any longer, and Messiah will reign as king. And there's more that's prophesied, like what's written here. For Yahuwah will have mercy on Jacob and will still choose Yasharel and settle them in their own land. The strangers will be joined with them, and they will cling to the house of Jacob. Then people will take them and bring them to their place, and the house of Yasharel will possess them for servants and maids in the land of Yahuwah. They will take them captive, whose captives they were, and rule over their oppressors. That's Isaiah chapter 14, verses 1 and 2. And you see, this is what Hebrew Israelites like to focus on. Out of all the other beautiful promises, they only can see that other people will be serving us. And yes, this is the case, but they apply it falsely to everyone. The problem is that most people don't understand what the world will be like during this period. The whole world will look to Yasharel. They must cling to Yasharel. All the people who have oppressed us will be our servants. They will be forced to serve us. I mean, for some reason, Christians believe that the whole world is just going to be destroyed or something. That's just not the case. Babylon will be destroyed and never be inhabited again, yes. Much of the world will be burned up, yes. But everyone is not going to die. They will live like how you see in those apocalypse movies or those Mad Max movies, how they have depicted it. And they will not be blessed. Everyone will not die though, and many of them will serve us in the kingdom. Us in Yasharel, we will be blessed. We will rebuild our land and we will dwell in it securely and be blessed. The other nations, they have a different fate. Like the remnant of Edom, they have a real issue. It says, on that day, I will raise up the tabernacle of David, which hath fallen down, and repair its damages. I will raise up its ruins and rebuild it as in the days of old, that they may possess the remnant of Edom, and all the Gentiles who are called by my name, says Yahuwah, who does this thing. Behold, the days are coming, says Yahuwah, when the plowman shall overtake the reaper, and the treader of grapes him who sows seed. The mountains shall drip with sweet wine, and all the hills shall flow with it. I will bring back the captives of my people Yasharel. They shall build the waste cities and inhabit them. They shall plant vineyards and drink wine from them. They shall also make gardens and eat fruit from them. I will plant them in their land, and no longer shall they be pulled up from the land I have given them, says Yahuwah, your Elohim. Amos chapter 9, verses 11 through 15. This is our future. We are going to rebuild our land. We're going to plant vineyards and eat from our gardens. We're going to live in peace and live under the rulership of YaHUsHa as our king. This is the future that I'm living for. And there's more prophesied too. Let's keep reading. But on Mount Zion, there shall be deliverance, and there shall be holiness. The house of Jacob shall possess their possessions. The house of Jacob shall be a fire, and the house of Joseph a flame. But the house of Esau shall be stubble. They shall kindle them and devour them, and no survivor shall remain of the house of Esau. For Yahuwah has spoken this. The south shall possess the mountains of Esau, and the lowland shall possess Philistia. They shall possess the fields of Ephraim and the fields of Samaria. Benjamin shall possess Gilead, and the captives of this host of the children of Yasharel shall possess the land of the Canaanites, as far as Zarephath. The captives of Jerusalem who are on Sephard shall possess the cities of the south. Then saviors shall come to Mount Zion to judge the mountains of Esau, and the kingdom shall be Yahuwah's. Obadiah chapter 1, verses 17 through 21. But do you see what it says here? Esau will be no more, which is why they avoid these discussions in church. That's why applying Esau as the white man is just such false doctrine, because this is not what this means. The Hebrew Israelites falsely teach this nonsense, and that's why people don't really have an accurate understanding of what to expect. There will be severe judgment on Esau, the ones who have stolen our identity and claim that they are the people. They have judgment coming to them. And Jacob, meaning Yasharel, We will be that judgment. We are the fire that will make them stubble. I have always said that there will be coming a time where we will fight. It comes when the kingdom comes, but we will be under YaH's covering and he will guide us. Those using these prophecies to prematurely go after those they falsely claim as Esau, they are being used by the enemy for wicked purposes. There is a time that this will come, but it's about YaH's timing, and the judgment must be on the right people. Now, that does not change that many of the people who oppressed us and were against us, they will still serve us. Those that survive will serve YaHUsHa, but that has nothing to do with those who have repented and were taken into the kingdom by YaHUsHa because of their love and service to him. The Hebrew Israelite doctrine does not properly account for them, and that's why I have issues with their doctrines. Please understand this. It will not only be YaHUsHa alive in this world. We know that scripture says that YaHUsHa will rule the world with a rod of iron. But yet people believe that when he comes back, there will be no one left to rule. That's just not true. And we know this again from prophecy, like was written in Zechariah 14. It says, "And it shall come to pass that everyone who is left of all the nations which came against Jerusalem shall go up from year to year to worship the King, YaHUsHa of hosts, and to keep the Feast of Tabernacles. And it shall be that whichever of the families of the earth do not come to Jerusalem to worship the King, YaHUsHa of hosts, on them there will be no rain. If the family of Egypt will not come up and enter in, they shall have no rain. And they shall receive the plagues with which YaHUsHa strikes the nations who do not come up to keep the Feast of Tabernacles. This shall be the punishment of Egypt and the punishment of all the nations that do not come up to keep the Feast of Tabernacles. In that day, holiness to YaHUsHa shall be engraved on the bells of the horses. The pots in YaHUsHa's house shall be like the bowls before the altar. Yes, every pot in Jerusalem and Judah shall be holiness to YaHUsHa of hosts. Everyone who sacrifices shall come and take them and cook in them. In that day there shall no longer be a Canaanite in the house of YaHUsHa of hosts." That's Zechariah chapter 14, verses 16 through 21. Do you see this? This is what the world will be like in the kingdom. It says, everyone who is left of all the nations. So we already know that there will be survivors. Not everyone will die. So people that believe that there will be no more people on earth, and that's why they need to go to heaven, they're just showing that they don't really understand the promises. Now it also says that those who survive must come to worship YaHUsHa, our King. And each year, everyone will be forced to come and celebrate Sukkot with us. If they don't, they won't receive rain for a year. So think about their crops. They will have issues if they don't align themselves to Yah. He's not playing with them. This is their future. This is prophecy for the millennial kingdom. And if you understand this, then you will understand Satan's little season. You see, right now, there's so many false doctrines going on right now. So many people right now are under this deception that all these prophecies have already been fulfilled, and we are right now in Satan's little season. And the reason why people are able to believe this, again, it goes back to the problem of Christianity and what they do with the word.
Here's the problem, Rabbi. They're reading Joel, Zephaniah, Zechariah, Habakkuk. They're reading prophets that by and large in the Christian church today, those books don't even exist, right? We pastors, we read Malachi to tell people to pay their tithes. Other than that, we don't have any use for Malachi, right?
All these prophecies from the Old Testament, they don't have a clue. And that's why they have false expectation of Bible prophecy. It's because they don't know it. There's a reason for Satan's little season. So let's cover it briefly. Let's go to Revelation chapter 20. Now, when the 1,000 years have expired, Satan will be released from his prison and will go out to deceive the nations, which are in the four corners of the earth, Gog and Magog, to gather them together to battle, whose number is as the sand of the sea. They went up on the breadth of the earth and surrounded the camp of the saints in the beloved city. And fire came down from Elohim out of heaven and devoured them. The devil who deceived them was cast into the lake of fire and brimstone where the beast and the false prophet are. And they will be tormented day and night forever and ever. Revelation chapter 20, verse 7 through 10. Okay, so get this and apply it. We in YaHUsHa, at that time, we're blessed. But the other ones in the world, they are not blessed. They're alive, yes, but they're servants, and they're living like they're in the apocalypse, because they are. But during the 1,000-year reign, they're not coming against us, because Satan is locked away and not swaying their minds. The world is under complete control of our King YaHUsHa. 1,000 years of peace. But here's the thing. The people that survive the tribulation and that are left, again, they're not blessed. And it's not like they're really a part of the everlasting kingdom. They are there for the fulfillment of prophecy that Messiah will rule this world with a rod of iron. But when the 1,000 years are up, those of us in the kingdom, we will remain and be blessed until the new earth and new Jerusalem come down. But that's not these people's future. You see, the purpose of the little season is for Satan to deceive these survivors to come against us one last time in order that they are destroyed. And then they, like everyone else in the world, will go for judgment. Satan's little season is just to get the nations not in the kingdom to rebel one last time so that they can be destroyed. That's why it's the little season. There isn't some battle like in the Battle of Armageddon. This time fire just comes out of heaven and destroys them. It's just that simple. And that's the 1,000-year reign. So people that believe that we're right now in Satan's little season, they are crazy deceived. We are in Satan's massive season, his big season. That's why everything is a lie. That's why everyone's being lied to right now. This is not a little season. People that don't understand Bible prophecy believe falsehoods. And that's what you get with the people that believe that this is Satan's little season. And these people keep popping up because the devil is out here deceiving people, making sure that many people are not ready for what's coming in this world. But okay, after that, it comes Judgment Day. Let's read. Then I saw a great white throne, and him who sat on it, from whose face the earth and the heaven fled away. And there was found no place for them. And I saw the dead, small and great, standing before Elohim. And books were open. And another book was opened, which is the book of life. And the dead were judged according to their works, by the things which were written in the books. The sea gave up the dead who were in it, and death and Hades delivered up the dead who were in them. And they were judged, each one according to his works. Then death and Hades were cast in the lake of fire. This is the second death. Anyone not found written in the book of life was cast into the lake of fire. That's Revelation chapter 20, verses 11 through 15. And you see, this is Judgment Day, and everyone is gathered to Yah and judge. And it's after this that the end that everyone talks about, this is when it actually comes. Everyone keeps talking about they're waiting for the new heaven and the new earth. And what they need to realize is that this doesn't happen until after the 1,000-year reign. This is when this all happens. But as you can see, there's a great deal of time between now and when the new heaven and the new earth come down. More than 1,000 years. But the new heaven and new earth is what everyone focuses on because they are not taught true Bible prophecy. Either way, this is a breakdown of what we should be expecting in the millennial reign. This is what we're waiting for. Again, I have made a PDF and put all these prophecies together so that they can be studied on your own. I pray this really helps many of you really understand what it is that we're truly waiting for. You see, this is what the Bible is about and what it is that we biblically should be waiting for. But the problem is that religion has blinded us from this. People following religion do not have a clue what it is our Father has actually promised. And there's a good reason for this. Christianity has blinded the masses and is leading them somewhere our Father is not. I've recently spoke about the fact that the religion of Christianity is a religion of tares. Please talk to Christians and ask them where they feel our promises are and what they're waiting for in these last days. And I venture to say that at least 95% or more do not have a thought about any of this that I mentioned here. They are living for completely different goals. Ask yourself why and how you think this could be. Again, it's because Christianity is a religion of tares, and they're being led in a different direction than what our Father has actually said. And that's why it's so hard to reach those who truly think they're correct. They come from the seed that Satan planted, not the seed Messiah planted. They want to leave this earth when we have just been given promises to inherit it and live in his power and covering in his kingdom. Now, there's a lot more to say on all this, but in the end, I just really wanted everyone to really get a glimpse of what we should be expecting based upon Bible prophecy and not those left behind books. This is what scripture states, and I encourage you to print these scriptures out and read them for yourself, study them on your own, and continue to read your whole Bible for yourselves. This is Bible prophecy, and it's all wonderful. If you live in faith and live for YaHUsHa, following his ways and commands, you have wonderful promises ahead. The world will be going through tribulation, but no matter what happens, we all who are in Messiah, we will be blessed. This is a wonderful time to be alive. The fact that you are alive and living during this time is a blessing, and don't ever look at it any differently. I tell this story often. When I first came into the truth, I sometimes used to let fear creep in and sway my view of being alive during this time. But after I grew my faith and understood what YaH is doing for us, I feel extremely blessed to be alive during this time, especially being awakened to it all and being able to watch all this happen in real time while not being I recently made a video where I exposed a view that many should have in regards to this world. It was a difficult subject for many to deal with because it exposed some things that many people aren't quite ready to deal with yet. And being that that was the case, it was understandable and anticipated. For the past month, YaH has had me to deal with the importance of living in a biblical reality and not being aligned according.
It's illegal to drive without car insurance in almost every U.S. state, but there's one thing you could try pretty much any time if you want to save money. So I found this website, and look at the difference. $159 a month. I thought this was the best price I could find. Don't even look anywhere.
Largely broke up. BRICS is not, in my opinion, not a serious threat. But what they're trying to do is destroy the dollar so that another country can take over and be the standard. And we're not going to lose the standard at any time. If you have a smart president, you will never lose the standard. If you have a stupid president like the last one, you would lose the standard. You wouldn't have the dollar as you. And if we lost the world standard dollar, that would be like losing a war, a major world war. We would not be the same country any longer. We're not going to let that happen. The dollar, you ever hear the expression, dollar is king? The dollar is king. We're going to keep it that way, okay? We're going to keep it that way. We're going to keep it that way.
Over the past year or so, I have tried to focus on Bible prophecy and really teaching about what is important. I have been trying to keep our eyes on the kingdom and less about what's happening in this world around us. Because if you focus on what is important, regardless of these events happening in the world, if you keep your eyes on YaH and recognize what is truly important, then you will always be ready. I've been very much focused on the kingdom, and that will never change. But as we have entered into the second half of this year, and I believe that events will escalate more dramatically and swift, I only think it to be prudent to make sure that you understand truly what is happening behind the scenes, because though it's right in front of our faces, unless the mainstream news really reports it, most people are going to be in the dark. And I honestly don't want these things to just surprise anyone when I had a chance to warn and update them. Over the past 6 months since Donald Trump took office, we have seen major events transpire. We saw the death of the Pope. Israel and the United States attacked Iran. Mass deportation in the United States with major protests, and the army being deployed on U.S. soil. We saw a major blackout on the Iberian Peninsula. We had major wildfires in California. In the beginning of the year, planes were crashing at random. India attacked Pakistan. Donald Trump put up major tariffs disrupting worldwide trade. Donald Trump declared 150% tariffs on China for a brief period. I'm sure I'm forgetting things. That was just 6 months ago. It has been nonstop since Donald Trump has taken office. And the thing is that we are so programmed by news cycles that we forget things. Things happen, we focus on them, and then they leave the news cycle, and then it just goes away. We forget all about it. at the end of 2024 where everyone was just focused on UFOs over the country. We are in a moment of change. And because our society is so heavily controlled, most of the world will not recognize the setup and what's happened until it's too late. Now, there's nothing that we can do to change the course of events. But if you are not asleep to it all, you can move with more understanding and not be a lost sheep like the rest of the world is. Those of us waiting for Bible prophecy to be fulfilled understand that all of these things are just signs of chaos that are waving the flag that change is upon us. And if we are vigilant and remain strong and faithful, we will be ready. Now, with all those events that happened in the first half of the year, other than the attack on Iran, I don't think there is bigger news than the numbers that have been reviewed and quietly spoken of just now. We are now entering a post-US-led world order, and we will not see the full scale of this until their agendas are complete. But with what has been revealed, I think it's important that I highlight it very briefly so that those of you who truly understand what's coming in this world, you can make proper decisions and move accordingly. The US dollar is quietly collapsing. The dominance of the dollar is on its way out. And if you really understand what that means, it should give you enough warning to prepare for what would happen before this fully hits.
And if we lost the world standard dollar, that would be like losing a war, a major world war. We would not be the same country any longer.
The full power of U.S. dominance will not just go away by a news event. War will happen first. All the indicators are right in front of us. And I want to make sure you were told of this now so that it does not surprise you when it happens. So we're going to discuss the imminent collapse of the US dollar that's happening right now. Let's begin. Okay, so let me just say this. It is important that this information does not provoke fear in you. Please understand that fear is not an option. If you're preparing for the kingdom, these things, they must take place. I'm not telling you this to make you be fearful, but to be prepared, because they will not prepare you. The goal is to pull the rug from beneath you and make you desperate so you are easily transitioned into their new system. Over the past week, as the first half of the year ended, they have been in complete distraction mode, from speaking about Diddy to this flood that just happened, to Elon Musk starting a new political party. I mean, ridiculous events. Please do not allow them to distract you. This is really what you need to know has happened. Here's an article just posted on Monday, July 7th, from mainstream news source CNBC. Here's the headline. The declining dollar faces more headwinds after posting worst first half return in 52 years. The article then says, the US dollar tumbled 10.7% against its global peers through June, making it the worst first half since 1973. Fresh off its worst performance since Richard Nixon was president, the US dollar faces a variety of headwinds heading into the second half of the year that could have important investing implications. The greenback tumbled 10.7% against its global peers through June, making it the worst first half since 1973, back when Nixon broke the Bretton Woods gold standard. At its bottom, the currency hit its lowest point since February 2022. The path ahead may not look much brighter. That's because many of the same factors, policy volatility, swelling debt and deficits, and potential interest rate cuts from the Federal Reserve, just to name a few, likely will stay on the minds of investors as they seek other avenues for safe havens. Okay, so let's be clear that the US dollar has lost almost 11% in value against other major currencies in the world. It's an invisible decline in our purchasing power. You wouldn't notice it in your bank account. It's not seen unless you're paying attention. So let's say you have $100,000 in the bank. It's only worth $89,000 right now in relation to other currencies in the world. Let me just show you by some charts. I can show you by first talking about the SDR. The SDRs are special drawing rights. They are an international reserve asset. The SDR is not a currency, but its value is based on a basket of 5 currencies: the US dollar, the euro, the Chinese renminbi, the Japanese yen, and the British pound sterling. The SDR was created by the IMF in 1969 where currencies were tied to the price of gold, and the US dollar was the leading international reserve asset. When fixed exchange rates ended in 1973, the IMF redefined the SDR as equivalent to the value of a basket of world currencies instead of the price of gold. So basically, they priced the SDR based on the value of these 5 currencies instead of valuing it by the price of gold. It's crazy, but don't get confused by that. It's not really important for you to understand. I only bring it up to review the top 5 currencies in the world. Again, that's the US dollar, the euro, the Chinese renminbi, the yuan, the Japanese yen, and the British pound sterling. And we should also add the Swiss franc to this list because it's considered a safe haven asset as well. I want to show you charts of the dollar over the past year to date. Dollar against the euro. Year to date, the dollar is down 11% compared to the euro. So if you went to go spend money in Europe, your dollar is buying you 11% less. Dollar against the British pound. The dollar is down 7.6%. Dollar to Japanese yen is down 6.5%. And US dollar to Swiss franc is down almost 12%. We leave the Chinese yuan alone really because it's pegged to the dollar right now. What I am showing though is a massive decline that according to CNBC, we have not seen in over 50 years. This is just the first half of the year. What we are seeing is the stage completely set for the changing of the world financial system, and the narrative is completely being given, but the mainstream media is not reporting on it. You must understand this is a very big deal. This should be on the minds of everyone because this is your economic future.
My friends laughed at me for buying this, and now they ask me where I got this. So I almost made the...
Now, if it was only really this news by itself, this would be alarming, but it could be manageable. But because of other events that are happening right now as well, it really is a cause for alarm. Just last week, the BRIC nations, which is a group of countries initially consisting of Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, and now has expanded to Egypt, Ethiopia, Indonesia, Iran, and the United Arab Emirates. They recently had a summit in Brazil just last week, July 6th to the 8th, I think it was. And at that summit, they are challenging the world financial economic system led by the United States and the G7. The G7, or Group of Seven, is an intergovernmental political and economic forum consisting of Canada, France, Germany, Italy, Japan, the United Kingdom, and the United States. The European Union also participates as a non-numbered member. The BRICS were created to be the direct opposition of the G7, and they have been forming for many years directly opposing the United States position. But it is this year where they have decided to make their demands more clear, and they are pushing for world change.
Well, leaders of the BRICS bloc of emerging economies are meeting in Rio de Janeiro. Top of the agenda are Donald Trump's trade tariffs and the risks to the world economy. The BRICS nations include just over half the world's population and 40% of global economic output. While the summit is aiming for unity, some of the biggest players have stayed away.
Rio is gearing up with a massive security operation. With tensions rising over trade, currency control and geopolitical alignments, the BRICS bloc of emerging economies meeting here is under pressure to show that it's more than just a talking shop. BRICS stands for Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, starting off as a designation by analysts, but which then became a formal club. Since last year, Egypt, Ethiopia, Indonesia, Iran, and the United Arab Emirates also joined the group, so-called Big BRICS or BRICS Plus. High on the agenda this year, talks on expanding the BRICS Pay platform to ease trade in their respective national currencies, a direct step towards reducing reliance on the US dollar. Though that stops short of proposals of a common currency between members. Also expected, discussions on security cooperation and a framework on AI governance. But not everyone is showing up in person, unlike last year. Russia's President Putin is subject to an international arrest warrant, while China's Xi Jinping is skipping the summit, sending his premier instead. Nevertheless, the Foreign Ministry says it still backs BRICS. We highly value and will actively participate in BRICS cooperation. We're willing to work with all parties, uphold the spirit of openness and win-win cooperation, stay true to the aspiration of unity, support Brazil in hosting a successful summit, and promote the development of big BRICS cooperation. The optics raise real questions about unity, just as Brazil tries to steer BRICS towards what it calls inclusive, sustainable leadership of the global South.
Okay, so their purpose is to challenge the US dollar for world trade and push other reforms. Putin and Xi, they were not in attendance, but Putin, he did give a speech.
BRICS countries account not only for a third of the world's land area and nearly half of the planet's population, but also for 40% of the global economy, with a combined GDP at purchasing power parity already reaching $77 trillion. This is according to IMF data for the year 2025. By the way, in this regard, BRICS significantly surpasses some other groups, including the Group of Seven. There, the figure is $57 trillion. Year after year, the authority and influence of our association in the world continue to grow. BRICS has rightfully established itself as one of the key centers of global governance and the strong voice of our countries in support of the fundamental interests of the global majority is being heard ever more clearly on the international stage.
He literally is explaining that the BRICS in size and influence is a challenge to the G7. He also says this.
We can all see that fundamental changes are taking place in the world. The unipolar system of international relations, which served the interests of the so-called golden billion, is becoming a thing of the past. It is being replaced by a fairer, multipolar world. The process of changing the global economic order continues to gain momentum.
See, he speaks of a change to the global financial order. And watch, he explains that he's trying to create a new system for settlements.
It is also necessary to continue expanding the use of national currencies in mutual settlements. The creation of an independent settlement and depository system within the BRICS framework, it seems, would make currency transactions faster, more efficient, and more secure. Incidentally, the use of national currencies in trade between our countries is steadily increasing.
You must understand, this is a complete challenge to the economic system. And he has stated that he is excited about the final declaration that the BRICS proposed.
In conclusion, I would like to once again thank my colleagues from the BRICS member states for their fruitful and constructive cooperation. We believe that the final declaration of the summit in Rio de Janeiro, which is ready for adoption, lays a solid foundation for our continued joint work in the traditional BRICS spirit of continuity and equal cooperation.
Now, if you actually read the final declaration, there is a large agenda focused on change. There are many points that are shared, but I want to read this point. It's points 9 and 10. It says, recalling that 2025 marks the 80th anniversary of the end of the Second World War, a war which brought untold sorrow to humankind, particularly in Europe, Asia, Africa, the Pacific, and other parts of the world, we render our full support to the UNGA resolution 79-272 on the 80th anniversary of the end of the Second World War. On this historical event, which established the conditions for the creation of the United Nations, designed to save succeeding generations from the scourge of war. Number 10, on the 80th anniversary, we reiterate the urgent need to reform the Bretton Woods institutions to make them more agile, effective, credible, inclusive, fit for purpose, unbiased, accountable, and representative, enhancing their legitimacy. Understand, they want to reform the Bretton Woods Agreement, which is what made the United States dollar King Dollar, which is exactly what has put America in great power over the past 50 years. Now, there is so much more written in that BRICS declaration. I put it on my website for anyone who wants to read it for themselves. The link's in the description box. What I'm saying is that the narrative for the economic reset is right before us. You can't have a dollar collapse and economic reset without formally having powerful declared enemies of the system that's pushing for change. It would not make sense. The dollar collapse is no longer a conspiracy theory, but an actual agenda that is on the table of the other half of the world population. So let me be clear so you don't misunderstand me. It's very easy to see all that and believe the other side is fighting for the world or whatever. Please do not misunderstand what is really happening. None of this is real. I repeat, none of this is real. In order for the world to move down these agendas, it just can't come out of nowhere. I really think people believe these Christian movies like Left Behind, and they really believe the world works like they show. The world is not going to one day go in unexpected chaos, and then the Antichrist will come out of nowhere and he will give all these changes. No, there are Satanists actually planning to make the world bow down to Satan. Everything that's happening right now is a part of that agenda. This is the narrative that the world powers are using in order to justify the change that will come when the time presents itself. This is just like a television program or a movie. This is a narrative, and you should pay attention to what the mainstream talks about in great detail and what they are not talking about, because that tells you if they got more to the story that they will be bringing out. Like, please think about the fact that these major nations just held a major meeting that was directly against the US-led world order, and you haven't heard mainstream media talk about it at all. I mean, what percentage of the public do you think even knows about this event and that these nations are attacking their current way of life? I mean, yes, we're seeing that Trump did speak about it, but did you hear about it from the mainstream?
Yeah.
If they aligned with anti-American policies,
10% charge.
that would be India, Brazil,
That's
Russia,
right, they have to
South
pay
Africa.
10% if they're in BRICS. Because
Right.
BRICS was set up to hurt us. BRICS was set up to degenerate our dollar and take our dollar as the standard, take it off as the standard. And that's okay if they want to play that game, but I can play that game too. So anybody that's in BRICS is getting a 10% charge.
Is that immediate, sir, or is
Yeah,
that
pretty
if
soon.
they engage in some behavior?
Well, if they're a member of BRICS, they're going to have to pay 10% tariff just for that one thing, and they won't be a member long. I thought BRICS was, I said this about a year ago, and it largely broke up. But, there are a couple that hang around, but I thought it largely broke up. BRICS is not, in my opinion, not a serious threat. But what they're trying to do is destroy the dollar so that another country can take over and be the standard. And we're not going to lose the standard at any time. If you have a smart president, you will never lose the standard. If you have a stupid president like the last one, you would lose the standard. You wouldn't have the dollar as you. And if we lost the world standard dollar, that would be like losing a war, a major world war. We would not be the same country any longer. We're not going to let that happen. The dollar, you ever hear the expression, dollar is king? The dollar is king. We're going to keep it that way, okay?
The media, they didn't highlight that part from the news conference. They focused on the Epstein cover-up.
Attorney General Pam Bondi getting harshly criticized in what is known as the MAGA world after the Justice Department released a memo saying that the accused sex trafficker died by suicide in jail while awaiting trial, and that there is no so-called client list of notable figures involved with Epstein that have fueled right-wing conspiracy theories. Here's how both President Trump and Bondi answered a question about the DOJ memo during Tuesday's cabinet meeting. Have a listen.
I mean, I can't believe you're asking a question on Epstein at a time like this where we're having some of the greatest success and also tragedy with what happened in Texas. It just seems like a desecration, but you go ahead.
They always have a convenient story that will get the attention of the people more than what's really important. That is all by design. But you can't say that they're not addressing it and they're not talking about it. It's just that you have to do more due diligence to find it. You see, all these new tariffs Trump is putting out, and the media, they just give headlines. Trump is putting tariff on Japan. Trump is putting tariffs on Brazil. Trump is talking greasy with Putin. But context is missing. Like with Japan has tried to be an ally of these BRIC nations, like India and Brazil. The BRICS conference was in Brazil. Brazil puts the B in BRICS. But people think that these tariffs are just out of nowhere.
with the president releasing a letter announcing a 50% tariff on imports from Brazil starting August 1st. Mr. Trump specifically pointing to the ongoing prosecution of one of his longtime allies, Brazil's former president Jair Bolsonaro.
Like in regards to Russia, right after the BRICS meeting and Putin's speech, Trump goes back to giving weapons to Ukraine and starts talking greasy about Putin. People see these things, but don't understand what's really happening. It's a narrative, a conflict that's forming. But for those of us here in the United States, those of us a part of the West, they don't want us to be awake to the full narrative yet, because they have plans to use this agenda to lead us into their new system. I mean, we hear everything about all these new tariffs, but the mainstream media leaves out the fact that he has threatened just an extra 10% tariffs just for a nation being a part of the BRICS.
And that's okay if they want to play that game, but I can play that game too. So anybody that's in BRICS is getting a 10% charge.
Is that immediate, sir? Or
Yeah,
is that
pretty soon.
If they engage in some behavior?
Well, if they're a member of BRICS, they're going to have to pay 10% tariff just for that one thing. And they won't be a member long.
Trump is talking about them and saying that they're not a big deal. But analyze his latest moves. What did he do? He recently is saying he's going to give Ukraine more weapons and just recently spoke directly against Putin, but making it about the Ukraine war. And they knew everything about this. That's why they gave themselves a self-imposed deadline to pass that tax bill that was also about adding more debt and producing economic insolvency. And Trump, he's been adding more tariffs as well. He just keeps giving the masses enough evidence to understand why the changes are coming. It's all about the narrative so that the people believe it and are easily led to the agendas that proceed after they set the whole system on fire. And is right in front of our faces. I mean, you really need to understand their Darwinian mindset of survival of the fittest, because they aren't hiding anything. They are walking this all down in real time. But they believe that if you are so dumb and easily manipulated to trust them blindly, then you're not strong enough to survive, and therefore what happens to you is not on them. That's their belief. I mean, they're not hiding. They're doing everything else except standing in front of us and spelling it out directly for us. I mean, what did Trump do the day before he took office? He created a digital currency. That's not for this current system that we're in. Is the world using digital currencies for major trade right now? That would make sense? Can you go to Walmart and buy something with Bitcoin or Ethereum right now? Of course not. But the man who says he's dedicated to making America great again literally started something that has nothing to do with why America is great. Shortly after, he signs an executive order to make America the cryptocurrency and AI capital of the world.
This is the crypto EO. We're going to be forming an internal working group to make America the world capital in crypto under your leadership.
Which is really going up, right?
Absolutely.
Two agendas that are currently opposite of our current way of life and are a major disruption to our way of life today. What else did he do? He started a Bitcoin strategic reserve on March 6th. The presidential order says the establishment of the strategic Bitcoin reserve and United States digital asset stockpile. And he said he did that as a matter of national security. They just passed the Genius Act stablecoin initiative in June. While the United States debt keeps climbing. I mean, right now it's at 37 trillion and rapidly climbing. And what's been happening with gold? I kid you not, gold is up 25% year to date. Literally, in 6 months, the value is up 25%. I think it's at $3,300 an ounce right now. This is literally happening right now, right in front of us. While people are making reels talking about nonsense, acting like all that fake money that they're making online is sustainable and will be there for them in the next 6 months to a year. People don't have a clue, and they're completely distracted, talking about Diddy, Jim Jones versus Nas, Epstein's client list, all this feminism stuff, whatever it is. A bunch of distractions. This whole system is screaming out for change. The major countries in the world are organizing in order to implement it. And if you are not ready for it, the powers that be feel that you were not one of the strongest, and therefore whatever happens to you is not on them. Survival of the fittest. Listen clearly to Trump's words when talking about this. He basically explained that them doing this would be like a world war, World War III.
In my opinion, not a serious threat. But what they're trying to do is destroy the dollar so that another country can take over and be the standard. And we're not going to lose the standard At any time, if you have a smart president, you will never lose the standard. If you have a stupid president like the last one, you would lose the standard. You wouldn't have the dollar as you. And if we lost the world standard dollar, that would be like losing a war, a major world war. We would not be the same country any longer. We're not going to let that happen.
If they lost the standard, it would be like losing a major world war. It's right in everyone's faces. They are not hiding it. Maybe you don't remember, but the G7, they met before the BRICS met. They met in Canada on June 15th. And then Donald Trump left early and then warned people to flee Iran's capital. These are all war drums being beaten right now in front of everyone, but because the mainstream media is not connecting the dots for everyone, people
like losing a war, a major world war. We would not be the same country any longer. We're not going to let that happen.
If they lost the standard, it would be like losing a major world war. It's right in everyone's faces. They are not hiding it. Maybe you don't remember, but the G7, they met before the BRICS met. They met in Canada on June 15th. And then Donald Trump left early and then warned people to flee Iran's capital. These are all war drums being beaten right now in front of everyone, but because the mainstream media is not connected.
Like losing a war, a major world war. We would not be the same country any longer. We're not going to let that happen.
If they lost the standard, it would be like losing a major world war. It's right in everyone's faces. They are not hiding it. Maybe you don't remember, but the G7, they met before the BRICS met. They met in Canada on June 15th. And then Donald Trump left early and then warned people to flee Iran's capital. These are all war drums being beaten right now in front of everyone, but because the mainstream media is not connecting the dots for everyone, people are not able to clearly see it. By hitting Iran, they are showing that they're not here for the games. It's right in your faces. Remember, Iran is a member of the BRICS. Listen, I am not saying any of this to scare you, but to make sure you are informed that things are happening right in front of you, and maybe you aren't aware. This is happening. There's nothing you can do to stop it, but you can switch gears into reality of the actual world that you're in and leave the fictional one that most of the people that you may know are living in that do not expect problems and they're not expecting this major issue. They are attacking the economic system, which means that if your money and worth has been summed up and valued by a fiat currency backed by nothing, like the United States dollar, what are you going to do when they attack the very thing that you have attached your whole way of life around? Listen, as I speak right now about the dollar losing value, don't expect this to happen tomorrow, that all of a sudden you'll lose all your money. I mean, it could happen like that, but that probably will not be what happens. I have repeatedly explained war comes first. As the BRICS noted, the Second World War resulted in this current economic system that we're in today. You are seeing the alliances that are formed that represent both sides of the conflict. You should be expecting major war to start. Expect a major event that triggers conflict, because they are not going to go to war to just say that they're fighting to change the world order. Absolutely not. We just know that this is a part of the agenda when the conflicts start. You should be ready for these type of problems. War comes first, and then famine, and then economic collapse. And that's just based upon the seals and the book of Revelation. What I am showing you is the narratives that they will be using that's behind the conflicts when they start. And what the biggest risk to you will be is being caught by surprise and then being attached to the anger and fear that will consume everyone else around the world. This is not just a United States problem, this is a world problem. The dollar is losing value and the system is currently being attacked. I am bringing this out because it's important that it does not catch you by surprise. What you should do with this information is different for each of us. But plan for problems with your money. I really wouldn't worry about housing being an issue initially. I think it's more important about losing access to things that once were regularly available, like food and water. And again, please be clear, I am not just speaking to the people in the United States, but everyone. Please be ready for a storm. Pretend a major storm like a hurricane is coming. What would you need if the power went out for an extended period of time? If you are sent to the arms of the government, you will be led right into their hands. I've been talking about this dollar collapse for a long time, and I hope that many of you have been preparing. Being mentally and spiritually prepared is most important. Like with the mental preparation, If you experience a problem with the banks or your credit cards don't work, please don't panic and move like everyone else will. Please, because you're mentally prepared, be one of the people who are ready and not led by your fear or your emotions. Just be like, I planned for this. I know this is going to happen. Let me go home and get safe. Please look at all the movements in the United States without listening to the words and the rhetoric by the media. They just gave Trump the authority to reduce federal employees. This country has been one of the largest employers of its population for a long period of time. But all of a sudden now, they are reducing the workforce. Why do you think that is? This only happens when a company is cutting costs. If you turn off all the noise and just look at the country and what is happening, all this should be easy to see. And so if you're ready for it mentally, physically, and above all spiritually, you will be fine because you will not be led like everyone else. This is a time where you're going to have to actually show that you have faith. We're going to see a lot of Christians walk straight out of their faith because their faith was based upon certain conditions that was never tested. Our Messiah told us clearly to not store up treasures on earth. He said, do not lay up for yourselves treasures on earth where moth and rust destroy and where thieves break in and steal. But lay up for yourselves treasures in heaven where neither moth nor rust destroy and where thieves do not break in and steal. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. Matthew chapter 6, verses 19 through 21. But unfortunately, many people who call themselves followers of Messiah did not truly take this advice, and they built their faith around their blessings. I've found that your faith is built stronger during the harder times than with the good ones. That's why fasting is so important, because you learn how to depend on Yah to sustain you. If you are paying attention and understanding what the world is clearly showing right now, they are telling you that thieves are going to break in and steal your money, steal your treasure, just like Messiah prophesied. It may come about through many different ways: cyber attacks, bank runs, just economic collapse, period. I don't know the agenda, but what I'm saying is that the narrative around it is very much public, and you can clearly see the power slipping away. We are seeing the decline of a U.S.-led world order in real time. There is nothing about what you're seeing right now that should give you long hopes of future prosperity here. Please prepare for problems. And be clear, I'm not saying live with a gray cloud over your head. Absolutely not. That's not the way I live. These can be the best times of your life if you know how to really give it all over to Yah. Let go of your control and allow Yah to take care of your life and your future. YaHUsHa knows all this is happening, and he knows you. If you put your trust in him, he will take care of you. This event, it sounds secular, yes, but it's all biblical, and it's all about how we get to our promises. I'm bringing this up because I just don't think it's something clearly seen and it's not being articulated enough. So if I could bring your attention to it, you can watch for yourself and know that you need to make sure that you're ready. If some of this is making you fearful, use this as a wake-up call that you need to strengthen your faith in YaHUsHa right now. You need to make sure that you trust him. And you understand, actually trusting him is different than just saying that you do. Don't just say, yeah, I trust Yah. Make sure you mean it truly in your heart. When the world resets, it's going to really bring it all out and really show who's true in their faith and who is just talking. It's easy to trust them when your bills are paid, you got money in your account, your job is all good. It's easy to say you trust Yah during those times. But what happens when all those safety nets go away? I know many of you are going through problems right now. I want many of you to consider that maybe the problems that you're dealing with right now, though it's obviously not fun, sometimes you really never know if Yah is just taking you through a sort of training camp, preparing you for the times ahead. If you already know how to go through hard times and how to make difficult decisions and know your only option is to trust YaHUsHa, what is coming will be a lot easier for you to deal with. So take your challenges as a blessing. He may be training you up so that you can know how to endure. Because so many people today, they're so high on life and high on themselves, they've never had problems. And when the problems come, they're not going to know how to deal with it. Here's a suggestion for many of you. If you lack faith, please go to the book of Psalms and read some Psalms. Say these Psalms daily and make sure that you believe it. Like this one. YaHUsHa is my shepherd. I shall not want. He makes me to lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside the still waters. He restores my soul. He leads me in the path of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil. My cup runs over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of YaHUsHa forever. Psalms chapter 23, verses 1 through 6. I mean, like, if you actually really believe this will reduce your fear. Because if you actually believe this, you know there's nothing to fear. Here's another one. I will lift up my eyes to the hills. From whence comes my help? My help comes from YaHUsHa, who made heaven and earth. He will not allow your foot to be moved. He who keeps you will not slumber. Behold, he who keeps Israel shall neither slumber nor sleep. YaHUsHa is your keeper. YaHUsHa is your shade at your right hand. The sun shall not strike you by day, nor the moon by night. YaHUsHa shall preserve you from all evil. He shall preserve your soul. YaHUsHa shall preserve your going out and your coming in from this time forth and even forevermore. Psalm chapter 121, verses 1 through 8. If you really believe that YaHUsHa shall preserve you from all evil, then these evil agendas, they got nothing to do with you. But if you do not believe it, that's why you have fear. I believe this. I have no fear of these people. Their evil has nothing to do with me. You need to trust YaHUsHa. And this is the point where all your words and all your faith really is going to be tested. Make sure you believe it. Use these Psalms amongst many others and build your faith. If you get weak and start fearing, read the Psalms. Just please understand that this world is changing. It's happening right now, right in front of us all. And though the mainstream is very silent, it does not mean that it's not happening. Please stay vigilant. Ask yourself right now, what would you do if your money didn't work and everything in your city shut down? What would you do? After you ask the question, have an answer. Create a plan and be ready, because this world is set to change. Change is very much upon us. For those in YaH, this change will be a blessing if you are ready for it. So listen, the most important thing you can do right now is be ready. So please, make sure that you are. Be blessed. Hallelujah. Praise YaH. Okay, thanks again for watching. If this has blessed you, please don't forget to like this and share this video with others. If you haven't done so already, please don't forget to subscribe to this channel. YaH willing, I upload every Friday. Also, please don't forget to like and follow this ministry on Facebook and Instagram, as well as on my website, truthunedited.com. As always,